Hello and welcome to Alex's Model Kits. This is just a quick update for the All at Sea group build, just showing what I've been doing in the last couple of weeks since my last update. I'm doing two kits. I'm doing the Airfix 1/48 scale Seafire Mark 17 and I'm also doing a white metal Langtons 1/1200 scale Napoleonic Sailing Ship. So we'll talk first about the Seafire because that's probably the main kit I'm doing for the group build. I'm sure most of you who've, if you've seen my videos in the past, you'll know that I'm not the fastest model maker. I do tend to take my time over things, and I'm well aware that a kit that someone else could do in probably a couple of weeks, I'll probably sort of ponder over and think about and walk away from and plan things and think about bits and pieces for a couple of months and then come back and do a little bit and then go away and think a bit more about it. And I quite like that. That's nice. I don't want to be rushed about things. I like to go away and think about what I'm doing on things. It is frustrating sometimes to feel that I'm taking such a long time, but it's frustrating that the end result doesn't seem to reflect the amount of thought going into it. But I do quite like the fact that I'm doing the kit in the way I want to do it. But because this is a group build, I'm well aware that there's an end date deadline for these builds to be done by, and so really, my normal standard of ponderous plastic is not really going to work here, and so I decided I was going to keep it really simple. I was going to do everything straight out of the box. I wasn't going to mess around with trying to scratch build anything or trying to do anything clever or remotely difficult or away from the kit. It's just going to be straightforward, out of the box, build it as it comes. The problem I had almost immediately was that the Airfix instructions, in fact on the very first step, so step 1, the Airfix instructions are saying to build the first few steps up until step, probably step 11, the first few steps were about building the cockpit, which is not unusual for any aircraft kit. They normally start with the cockpit and then work from there. And the problem is that Airfix are saying for the colour scheme on the inside, they are saying that the at the top half is assassin black and the bottom half is a beige colour that's used on the outside of the aircraft. So they're recommending Humbrol colour 90, and that's a really unusual colour scheme. And it's one I wasn't entirely convinced about. Most aircraft that I've made, they are the cockpit green. Humbrol's number 78 cockpit green is pretty much standard, and the Americans have a variation of that, which I think is Humbrol's 228. Most countries tend to go for a sort of a green shade of some description, and so going suddenly for beige just made me think that there's something wasn't quite right about that. So I stopped. I didn't actually get on very far with the kit. I stopped and started to try and do some research to see if this was a mistake by Airfix or if it was a genuine colour scheme or not. And I found nothing on the internet which backed up that colour scheme. I found some nice photographs of a Mark 17 Seafire in the Fleet Air Arm Museum at Yeovilton, and there are some shots of the cockpit there, and the cockpit inside colour is the cockpit green. So I couldn't really make my mind up. I was unsure about whether to go ahead with that colour or not. I decided to go off and buy some research material, and I bought two booklets. I bought this, which I didn't really think would have what I wanted, because by and large these are generally black and white anyway, but these are quite useful. It's £5. It's quite an interesting little booklet for the sake of it anyway, so I was happy to get that. And sure enough, it does have some interesting charts, but as you can see they are black and white. But yeah, pretty good, quite pleased with that. And the other one I bought was this here, which is the Warpaint's Seafire book. I think most model makers, certainly in the UK anyway, probably are aware of Warpaint's booklets. They are very good. Probably what people may not realise though is that they now print these on demand. They've been printing these for many years, and they print a batch, and then once they run out, they tend not to print anymore, and so you find that the earlier ones are just hard to get in the future. But actually they've now got to the point where they are printing on demand, so you can go onto the website and select the booklet you want, and they will print it for you and then post it to you, which I think is a really good thing. So I bought this one. I also bought, they do a second Seafire booklet. This is for the Griffin engined Seafire, and the other booklet they do is for the Merlin engined Seafire. So I bought this hoping that this would actually give me some decent clues, and the vast majority of this booklet deals with the outside of the aircraft, which is fair enough. It's pretty much what it's always there to do. But they do have a few internal shots, or a few close-up shots, so various bits and pieces, where the wing splits, as you can see the wheel, and then just down here we've got two shots of the cockpit. So we've got these two photographs. So just on this photograph here, we've got cockpit green, and on this photograph here we've got an interesting mix of colours. We've got just up ahead, roughly where the joystick is, we've got, I think, evidence of cockpit green, and then further back, close to the seat, we've got this unusual colour, which you could argue actually is probably a beige type colour. So that's an unusual mix of colours, and it makes me, initially I thought maybe that's the evidence that we need for beige being used. Actually, on reflection, I don't think it is. What I think is happening is that on the second photograph, this photograph here where the beige is apparently shown, I think what's happened is that the photograph is overexposed. I think someone's used a flash gun to light up the cockpit internals, and the flash has bounced too brightly from that part of the cockpit, and so it's washed it out, giving it a washed out colour. And if you look further ahead, around the joystick area, the green, cockpit green area there is exposed correctly, so you get the correct colour. I also think if you compare, and these are obviously the same aircraft, if you compare the photograph, the first photograph and the second photograph, the first photograph shows exactly the same area around the seat, but it shows it in cockpit green. So I think that the photograph is misleading, and it shouldn't be used as a guide for the colour scheme. And with that in mind, I've not seen a single photograph of a cockpit for a Seafire with beige as an internal colour. Now I might have seen a few photographs of models using beige, but that doesn't prove anything in my view, because people might have just gone ahead and done what Airfix suggested, as opposed to what actually might have been in existence. So I kind of agonised over this for a while. Generally I have quite a lot of faith in Airfix and their instructions and their colour recommendations. So doing something other than what Airfix suggested felt a little bit strange in some ways, but I think I can't find the evidence. I can't ignore that voice in my head that says that's the wrong colour, and so I've gone with cockpit green as my internals. I'm going to stick with the upper half being satin black, and I'm going to go with cockpit green for the lower half, and I think that probably should be my solution. So with that in mind, I've started doing various bits and pieces. I've got the console and the joystick. I'm working on the seat and the armour plating for the seat and the seat mounting, and I'm hoping to get some more of that done later on today, and then I'll try and weather it down. What's really interesting, if you look at those again, look at these two photographs, is actually just how tatty and scruffy the cockpit is, and I tend to feel that my version is going to be too neat and tidy and probably a bit too pristine, so I'm going to try and look at just scruffing it up a little bit and making it look a bit more busy, to try and show the cockpit in a bit more accuracy, I suppose. So yes, that's as far as I've got with the Seafire. I've also probably the only thing I've also done is that the pieces that come, the bulkheads that come with the kit. So this is the bulkhead for the seat mounting. They came with a lot of holes moulded, so they weren't actually holes, they were just sort of indentations, circular indentations, but they would have been holes, and so I've spent a bit of time drilling those out on the bulkhead, and whilst you won't be able to see it properly, also there are a row of, I think it's 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, yes, so 8 small holes, all just to save weight for the aircraft, and I've drilled those out as well, so I'm quite pleased with that. So that's where we are with the Seafire, and more work to continue. The other thing to look at is my my Langtons miniature. This is a white metal kit, and it's a mixture of white metal and photo etch, brass photo etch. The hull, as you can see here, this is purely white metal. It comes in two parts: the main part, and then the galley plate at the end, which I've glued on with PVA. I've used PVA because I had hoped that it would fill the gaps between the galley and the end of the ship. It has on the port side, I think it's quite a flush, neat fit. On the starboard side though, I think it's there's a small gap that I'm going to need to address, which is a bit frustrating. I was hoping to avoid that. In preparation for rigging this, I'm going to, I have actually drilled 7 holes, which you'll never see on this video, but I'll show you on the photograph. So you can see on the photograph that we have 3 pairs of holes either side, running down the side, and these are for the standing rigging, and then there's a hole further forward just beneath the forepeak. I think it's a forepeak, again for the standing rigging. The plan is I'm going to do the standing rigging, or as much of the standing rigging as I can. I want to try and do the standing rigging because I think that gives the ship its shape. It makes it look like a sailing ship, and then after that I'll then look at doing some of the running rigging. I'm not sure how much I'll do. I think I will stop at the point where it feels right to stop. And I'd like to do the running rigging. I'd like to do the running rigging because that kind of gives the ship it gives an explanation as to how the ship was operated and handled and controlled, because it's a running rigging that move the sails around and angle the sails to the wind. Something a lot of people probably don't realise is that a ship like this, a lot of people would assume that the best way or the fastest way for this ship to sail would be for the wind to be directly behind and just blow the sails forward, and that's actually not the case. The best angle really is to have the wind coming at the side, or to a degree at the side, and then they angle the sails. So if the wind is coming this way, they'll angle the sails like that, so it catches the wind. And something else people don't realise is that they hadn't quite realised it, but they were discovering early aerodynamics, because there were some captains who were aware that if they allowed the sail to, if you have, let's say this is your spar for the sail, there were some captains who took the view that the sail should be almost drum taut and it would be out and straight. But other captains realised if they allowed it to just billow out, it filled a kind of bulbous way at the front and then trailed off at the back, and that actually recreates the I'm not describing it terribly well, I'm afraid, but it almost recreates the profile of a wing, and they were getting that high and low pressure difference that was driving the ship forward from the sail itself. So I don't know why I'm telling you that, but it's just one of those interesting things. I find it interesting anyway, that they were kind of almost discovering a wing shape with sails, but 100 years before the Wright brothers flew their aircraft. So there we are. Small aside. I don't know why I'm boring you with that detail, but I am. So yes, so as you can see, not much has been done. Holes have been drilled in preparation for rigging. The next thing to do is to give this a spray with an undercoat so that the paint will sit comfortably on it, and then I'll make a start on painting the hull up, and then painting up the masts and sails after that. So it doesn't feel like I've done very much. There's been a lot of sitting around waiting for booklets to arrive and looking on the internet, but I think I've now made my decision about colour schemes and things, and I'm going to push on with that, and I'm hoping to get more of this done fairly soon. So there we are, quite a lot of waffle I think for not a lot of progress, but that's where we are so far. Okay, so sorry this has been probably longer than it should have been. I hope you're all enjoying your builds and getting on with your builds better than me. I've seen a few people, several people have finished already. Several people have probably finished their second kit by now, and there are some really nice kits out there. They're looking really good, so I'm really keen to add at least one of mine, and I hopefully would like to have both of these done by the end of March, and to enter these as completed things for the group build. So thanks for watching, and enjoy your model making. Good luck with your kits, and I look forward to seeing your finished kits very soon, and I hope that you'll be able to see my finished kits very soon as well. Okay, thanks again for watching, and goodbye.